Psychology of people who grew up in the 1960s. There's something you notice about people who grew up in the 1960s. It's not just one thing. It's a constellation of traits that doesn't quite match any other generation. They can hold contradictions without breaking. They believe in progress while expecting setbacks. They trust their judgment, but question authority. They're idealistic and pragmatic at the same time. And if you ask them how they became this way, most of them can't quite explain it. Because they didn't learn it from a book or a therapy session. They absorbed it from living through a decade that kept rewriting the rules while insisting everything was fine. Let us start with something that sounds almost unbelievable today. You are 6 years old. The teacher says it is time for a drill. You know what this means. You slide out of your chair, drop to your knees, and crawl under your wooden desk. You tuck your head between your knees, wrap your arms over your head, and wait. This is what you are supposed to do if the nuclear bomb comes. The desk, somehow, is supposed to protect you from atomic weapons. Even at 6, you know this does not make sense. You have seen pictures of what atomic bombs do. You have heard adults talk in hushed voices about Hiroshima. You know that this desk, with its metal legs and wooden top, is not going to save you from the end of the world. But you do it anyway, every week, sometimes twice a week. And here's what's psychologically fascinating. This did not make you anxious in the way we would expect. It made you something else entirely. It taught you to live with existential dread as background noise. You learned, before you were old enough to understand the words, that catastrophe is always possible and life continues anyway. You still had to do your homework. You still had to be home by dinner. The world might end tomorrow, but today you still had responsibilities. This created a specific kind of mental architecture. People who can function under threat. People who do not need the world to feel safe in order to move forward. People who have made peace with the fact that uncertainty is permanent. When a kid who grew up in the 1960s faces a crisis as an adult, something happens that confuses younger generations. They do not panic. They do not freeze. They assess, adapt, and act. Because they have been living with the possibility of total annihilation since first grade. Compared to nuclear war, most problems feel manageable. Now let us talk about trust and betrayal. You are 10 years old, and your parents tell you that the president is the most important person in America. That he is smart, honest, and good. That adults who work hard and do the right thing succeed. That the government protects you. That the systems work. And then on November 22, 1963, you come home from school and your mother is crying at the television. The president is dead. He was shot in Dallas. You watch it play over and over. The motorcade, the chaos, Jackie Kennedy in that pink suit. And something breaks in the adult world. The confident certainty evaporates. Your parents look scared. Teachers cry. The whole country feels like it is holding its breath. And then it happens again. 5 years later, you are watching the news, and Martin Luther King is assassinated. 2 months after that, Bobby Kennedy is assassinated. 3 leaders, 3 bullets, 5 years. You learned something crucial during those moments. The good guys do not always win. Heroes can be destroyed. Progress can be stopped with a trigger pull. Hope is fragile. This created a psychological split that defines the generation. They believe in change because they saw massive change happen. Civil rights, women's rights, cultural revolution. But they also learned that change has costs. The people who push for it often pay the price. Believing things can get better does not mean they will. This is why people from the 1960s can be so frustrating to argue with. They agree change is possible. They have seen it. They have lived it. But they will not promise you it will happen. Because they have also watched change get murdered on live television. They carry both truths simultaneously, and that makes them seem contradictory to people who only hold one. Let's shift to something smaller but equally formative. Money. Real money. Physical money. You're 8 years old and your mother hands you 4 quarters. She tells you to walk to the corner store and buy a loaf of bread. You take the coins. You feel their weight in your pocket as you walk the 3 blocks alone. You push open the door. The bell rings. You pick up the bread. You walk to the counter. You place the 4 quarters on the glass. The man gives you back a dime and a nickel. You put them in your pocket and walk home. This entire transaction is yours. No adult supervised it. No credit card abstracted it. You held the money. You made the exchange. You got the change. You walked home with proof that you could handle responsibility. And this happened constantly. Buying candy, getting milk, picking up cigarettes for your dad, running errands with actual money in your actual hands. This created something modern children simply do not develop: a physical understanding of value. When you could feel money leave your hand, you understood what things cost in a visceral way. A candy bar was not just 50 cents on a screen. It was 2 quarters you could have saved. A comic book was not a digital price. It was 12 cents you earned doing chores. This built neural pathways that connected spending to sacrifice, saving to future possibility, working to reward. And because the money was finite and visible, you could not trick yourself about how much you had. When your pocket was empty, you were broke. When it was heavy, you were rich. The feedback was immediate and undeniable. But the money was just one part of a larger pattern. Independence. Real, unsupervised, trust-based independence. It is Saturday morning. You are 7 years old. You eat breakfast. Your mother tells you to be home by dinner. That is it. That is the entire instruction. No cell phone, no GPS tracker, no itinerary. Just a simple boundary. Dinner. You leave the house and you are gone for 8 hours. You meet up with neighborhood kids. You decide to explore the creek. Then someone suggests the old abandoned house. You go there. You find a rope swing. Someone almost breaks their arm. You play baseball in the empty lot until you get bored. You ride bikes to the store. You pool your money and buy soda. You argue about who is paying. You figure it out. Nobody calls their parents. Nobody texts for permission. You are just kids in the world, making decisions, handling consequences, solving problems. And here is what this did to your brain. It built confidence through competence. Every challenge you faced without rescue. Every problem you solved without help. Every fight you worked it out yourselves. You learned that you could handle things because you were actively handling things. This created adults with an unusual relationship to help. They do not ask for it easily, not because they are proud or stubborn, but because they have proven to themselves thousands of times that they can figure things out. They have been doing it since they were 7 years old, when their mother sent them into the world with nothing but a time boundary. Now let us talk about boredom. Real boredom. The kind that modern humans have almost completely eliminated from existence. It is a Tuesday afternoon in July. You have already been outside. It is too hot, so you came back in. There is nothing on television. 3 channels, and they are all showing soap operas or news. You do not want to read. You have read all your comic books. Your friends are not home, and you are just sitting there, bored. Deeply, uncomfortably bored. Your mother is in the kitchen. You walk in and say those words, "I am bored." You know what she says? Find something to do. That is it. No suggestions, no activities, no entertainment offered. Just a dismissal back to your own resources. So you sit with the boredom. You lie on your bed staring at the ceiling. You count cracks in the plaster. You watch dust float through sunbeams. You think about nothing. Then, you think about something. Then you get an idea. Maybe you start drawing. Maybe you go back outside and dig a hole just to see how deep you can go. Maybe you organize your baseball cards for the 3rd time this month. Maybe you just sit there longer. But eventually, something happens. Your brain, starved for stimulation, starts generating its own. Creativity is not a choice. It is what happens when there is nothing else. And this happened constantly in childhoods in the 1960s. The boredom, the empty hours, the nothing to do, and every time your brain had to make something from nothing. This built a capacity that is becoming extinct. The ability to be alone with your thoughts without anxiety, to sit in silence without reaching for a device, to let your mind wander without panic, to generate ideas internally rather than consuming them externally. People from the 1960s can do something younger generations often cannot. They can sit in a waiting room without their phone and be fine. Not just fine, content. Because they have spent thousands of hours sitting with nothing, and they have learned their own mind is enough company. Let's talk about failure. Real failure, public failure, permanent failure. You're playing Little League and you strike out with the bases loaded. You lose the game for your team. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows it was you. You walk off the field and your father is there. You expect comfort. You expect he'll tell you it's okay, that you did your best, that it doesn't matter. Instead, he says, "Get in the car." On the drive home, he doesn't say much. Maybe better luck next time. Maybe you'll get it next game. That's it. No processing, no discussion of feelings, no reassurance that you're still valuable despite the failure. Just the acknowledgement that you failed and the assumption that you'll handle it. And you do handle it. You sit with the disappointment. You feel it fully. It hurts. It's embarrassing. You replay the moment over and over, but slowly it fades. The intensity decreases. The world keeps turning. And you learn something crucial. Failure is not fatal. Disappointment is temporary. You can feel bad and survive feeling bad. This created adults with unusual resilience. They don't catastrophize setbacks because they've experienced enough setbacks to know they pass. They don't need emotional rescue because they've learned emotions regulate themselves if you give them time. They don't fear failure the way younger generations often do because failure was just part of their childhood landscape. You failed. You felt bad. You tried again. That was the pattern. And it built a tolerance for discomfort that serves them decades later. Now let's talk about something that happened on July 20th, 1969. You're sitting in front of a television. Maybe you're at school. Maybe you're at home. The whole country is watching. And then it happens. A human being steps onto the surface of the moon. You watch it live. Not a recording. Not a recreation. The actual moment. And something shifts in your understanding of possibility. Because your parents grew up being told humans would never fly. Then they flew. Then they were told we would never break the sound barrier. Then we broke it. But the moon, that seemed impossible. That was science fiction. That was Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. That wasn't real. Except it was real. You watched it happen. A human walked on the moon. And if that was possible, what else was possible? What other limits were just failures of imagination? What other impossibilities were just difficulties waiting for the right people with the right determination? This moment imprinted something deep. A belief, not intellectual but visceral, that enormous obstacles can be overcome. That the phrase "it can't be done" usually just means we haven't figured out how yet. That human ingenuity has no upper bound. When these kids grew up and faced their own impossible challenges, they carried this with them. They had seen impossible become possible. They had watched humanity do something that could not be done, and it changed what they believed was achievable. But all of this, the independence and the moon landing and the resilience, existed alongside something darker. Vietnam. You would be eating dinner, and the television would show body bags. You would watch the news and see burning villages. You would hear the daily count of American deaths. And the government kept saying we were winning. Your parents, who had fought in World War II, who trusted authority, who believed in America, started asking questions. They started doubting. And you watched that happen. You watched your parents' faith in institutions crack. You learned that governments lie, that authority is not always right, that just because someone has power does not mean they have wisdom. This created a generation with a complicated relationship to authority. They respect competence, but not titles. They trust leaders who earn it, not those who demand it. They will follow rules that make sense and question rules that do not. They learned early that blind obedience is dangerous, that questioning authority is not disrespect. Sometimes it is responsibility. And here is what makes this generation psychologically unique. They absorbed all of these contradictions and made them work. They learned that the world could end tomorrow and you still have to do your homework. That change is possible and heroes get killed. That money is real and you can be trusted with it. That you are capable and you will fail sometimes. That humans can walk on the moon and governments lie. They learned to hold opposing truths simultaneously without breaking. And this created adults who confuse people. They are optimistic pessimists, idealistic realists, trusting skeptics. They believe in progress while expecting setbacks. They hope for the best while preparing for the worst. They trust their judgment while questioning everything. And they cannot really explain how they do this because they have been doing it since they were 6 years old and hiding under a desk that would not save them from anything, knowing it was theater, doing it anyway, and going back to their math problems when the drill was over. These people carry something the modern world desperately needs. A blueprint for living with uncertainty without paralysis, for believing in change without being naive, for trusting yourself while questioning authority, for building resilience through experience rather than protection. They are not perfect. They have their blind spots and their traumas and their mistakes. But they figured out how to function in a world that kept proving nothing was stable. And they did it without therapy, without self-help books, without the language we have now for processing trauma. They just lived through it, absorbed it, integrated it, and came out the other side with this strange, contradictory, functional psychology that does not quite fit any category. They grew up in a decade of assassinations and moon landings, of nuclear drills and cultural earthquakes, of unprecedented freedom and constant threat. And somehow, they learned to hold all of it. The hope and the horror, the trust and the skepticism, the optimism and the realism. That is who they became. And maybe that is exactly who the times required them to be.